Hey guys, morning. It's like 5 o'clock a.m. and you guys know this is not my preferred time to be awake. Nevertheless, Zara and I decided to go on this crazy challenge where we would both be single for 36 hours. So from 5 o'clock this morning until 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, I'm a single man. So I dropped her at the bus station place a while ago for her to take the bus the Knutsford into Kingston, and she will be in Kingston for the next day and a half, I guess. Sorry guys, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. You know my brain don't work too well at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm supposed to be getting ready to go to work, but I was not going back home to an empty house. So I decided to come down by Doctor's Cave and get in a morning swim before I go into the hospital for two reasons. One, I'm missing the walk this morning with Raim and Danny, and two, I kind of really want to feel good this morning because I have ward rounds with my consultant and I'm on internal medicine now as of yesterday, and I don't really like internal medicine. I'm sorry for upsetting anybody, but internal medicine is not for me. Internal medicine in internship is not for anybody, if I'm being honest. But yeah, well, we won't be interacting much throughout the next 36 hours, so she will send me a message to know that she's in Kingston and that she's safe, but that's about it. There's no pillow talk, there's no telling anybody about my day, there's no, if I need to rant, I can't call her to rant for 36 hours, and then tomorrow evening I'll pick her up back at Knutsford. So that's what's up. Alright guys, so if you're interested in this kind of adventure, come along with me. What happens when high school lovebirds get married?
They move to a new city and start a YouTube channel, of course.
Welcome to Adventures of XYZ. I'm Xaundre.
And I'm Zara.
I'm a doctor.
And I'm a lawyer.
But we both just really love sharing our faith and going on cool adventures.
So we created this channel to share our journey as we attempt to use biblical principles to navigate life.
And have a whole lot of fun doing it.
So, come along with us!
I'm gonna try to have a productive morning. I already had worship from before we left out. Yeah, I was kind of falling asleep at the time, but I remember some stuff. So I'll probably have a next worship again and then jump in the water once the place kind of brighten up a little, So now is, reasonable time. It's now 7:27 a.m. and I'm at work, so I'm going to go and see the patients, have rounds, do the list, and then I'll catch in with you guys. Now stay tuned because I have some questions that you guys submitted that you wanted to ask on singleness, and we'll be answering them soon. As a matter of fact, let's take the first question right now. How does one fully embrace singleness without being pressured by society? So the reality of it is that pressures will come and people are going to pressure you, whether you're single, you're married, or I guess there's no other option. You're either single or you're married. So whether you're single or you're married, people are going to pressure you nevertheless. The important thing to remember is that your life is to be guided not based on what people around you say, but based on what God has designed your life to be. And the only way to know that is to sit down and talk with God and ask Him, God, am I now supposed to be searching for a partner, or am I just supposed to be working on developing me? Am I supposed to be moving towards marriage with this person, or am I just supposed to embrace this season of singleness? Like, there's nothing wrong with being single, and there's a lot of beauty that comes from being married, and I'm not going to suggest that I would reconsider this being married thing. However, being single is also a blessing, and it's just a matter of the season of life that you're in, and everybody's life is orchestrated differently. So ask God what your life is supposed to look like, and then make sure that you're doing it the way that He said. And don't worry about people. People will always talk. You can't please all the people, because you know what? People go and pressure you to get married. So when you get married, people go and pressure you to have kids. When you have the first child, nobody's going to help you with the child. Or maybe them take them for one day, or them buy them one pack of Pampers, but that is the end of it anyway. Me and my dry face going to go to the people them work, and we will catch up.
Zara, on the other hand, is great. It has been a lovely day so far. I had to come into Kingston today. I'm not sure what Xaundre said on his part of the vlog, but I left out from early this morning because I had a meeting at 10 o'clock, and I met up for lunch with some lovely people. Big up the F-It crew. And then now I'm just at this Airbnb, which of course I have to show you guys. It is so cute, so quaint, so chic. It kind of reminds me of what my bachelor or my spinster pad looked like, or what I wanted it to look like. I never saw pictures, I don't know. I remember my studio that I used to live in, but it's so nice, clean and white and sweet. So it's been a long day. I've been up since 4, so I'm going to relax a little bit and then I'm going to tackle your question.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. You see, if my wife were here, she would have lotion and my face wouldn't look like this. But yeah, tip to all single men, make sure you have your own lotion.
So I never brought my tripod, borrowed on my friend's tripod, so I could record this video for y'all. And look, this part broke off, so I'm just going to have to like hold up this and try to answer some of the questions. So somebody asked, are single people missing out on love? And I don't think single people are missing out on love, but I think a lot of single people are missing out on genuine relationships because they're so focused on that type of romantic love. So they don't pour into their friendships as much, they don't invest in their families as much because they're so caught up with the idea of not being single anymore. So I think that's what a lot of single people miss. The fact that all of these relationships in your life, they will change. Naturally, they'll change once you get married. Sometimes you get married, you move away. You know, you get married, your priorities shift a little. You get me? So the season of singleness is a season to invest in your friendships, in your family, and stuff like that, so that you always have that support of that community, even when marriage comes around.
Situation update. It's now 2:05 p.m. Was a good second day on internal medicine. I'm not going to complain. I actually really like my team and they teach quite a bit and they expect a lot from me, but I think I can manage this. You know, I'll survive, hopefully. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is, I was on ward rounds and got a call from the other consultant to say that we have a patient that's going to need to be bagged all night, and my other 2 colleagues are already on call, so I'll have to now come on call all night tonight to bag the patient. You know what bagging a patient is? Let me tell you. I will literally have to hold a bag and squeeze it like this until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So from 4 o'clock this evening until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, I have to take over the bagging. I've never done it before, like for an extended period. Obviously I've done it for like brief periods, so I'm not exactly sure at what points I'm going to swap in and swap out. I'm sure I must get like a chance to go use the bathroom. How do we practically cope with being alone when we yearn for companionship? And I would say stop focusing so much on an intimate partner and instead focus more on 2 things. 1, developing yourself like as an individual, make yourself just a better person overall, and I'll talk a lot about personal development in a minute, and also you'll see it coming through a lot of the things that we'll talk about. And second of all, invest in other friendships or other relationships. So your friends that are around you, just your regular friends, maybe you have a best friend. Invest in your family relationships. It's during this time while you're single that you can spend a lot more time there, because once you get married then your priority will now shift. So let's talk a little bit more about that personal development thing, right? You see, if you really spend enough time working out, eating properly, reading the right books, meeting the right people so you can make the right connections and have conversations with people who can help you to go to places, then you're really not going to have any time to sit down and wallow in your loneliness, really. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, you can't feel lonely from time to time, but I'm saying that if you sit down and dwell in it, you're not going to be any better off for it. So the situation is what it is. You're not any worse off than anybody else, and people have made it through. Like, I don't mean to be hard, but most of us just don't spend enough time working on ourselves. So just spend some more time working on you. And I understand that you long for companionship, but you can get that companionship through friendships. Certainly it's not the same as an intimate relationship, but it has its place.
So this person asked, what was the hardest thing to let go of in your single life? And this might be one of the things that was hardest for me to let go of, having my own space. As everybody should know by now, I grew up as an only child, always had my own room, always. When I moved to UE, I never had any roommates. Then when I went to Norman Manley, I lived on the postgrad hall where I had a whole little studio thing for myself. Then when I moved off and I was living on my own, I also had a studio. So I'm used to small spaces, but by myself, right? I love small spaces by myself. With marriage, you have to share a space, no matter how big the space is. And I love it. And don't get me wrong, I love Xaundre being there, love him all up in my Kool-Aid and all of that. But we have this joke that we tell each other that the personal space that we have is around us. I mean, just kind of having my own space to not be able to report to anybody, to put things where I want to leave it. If I want to cook, I cook. If I don't want to cook, I don't cook. If I want to wash the plate, I wash the plate. If I don't want, and just having that kind of freedom, that's something that I had to let go of. Actually, when I was leaving from my studio, I cried literal tears, because being alone in my own space became such a big part of me. And learning to live so intimately with somebody else was something I had to definitely get used to. So that's maybe one of the hardest things. I think the underlining all of that is selfishness. Like, it's something that I had to putting Zara first, thinking only about Zara is selfishness, and I had to learn how to overcome that. And I'm not perfect. It's something that I'm learning every day. As humans, we also need our space. So from time to time, Xaundre goes to work. Sometimes he works all night. He works nights and stuff. So I think at that time we get space. And then sometimes when he comes in, he doesn't want to socialize. So he also goes to the bathroom is his favorite place. So he'll go there and he'll be there for hour and a half or 2 hours. So he takes his space too. So yeah, that's the hardest thing.
Are singles faced with more temptations than married people? I don't think so. I don't think it's any more or less whether you're single or you're married. However, what is true is that when you're married, it might not be as bad, the sexual temptations. And that's just because of the biology involved in having an orgasm and having it release the pressure and stuff like that. If you are having sex routinely with your significant other when you're married, then you don't have as much tension built up. So seeing people and lusting at them and stuff may not be as bad. But don't think that marriage should be or is the solution to a lust problem or a temptation where you can't control yourself sexually. It's not the solution, because unless you go to Jesus and Jesus really fixed the problem, then even after you get married, you'll still have the problem. And instead of focusing only on your spouse, then you're going to end up being loose. So I'm saying that to say, don't think that marriage will solve that particular problem, and certainly all the other problems will remain whether you're married or unmarried.
Her 30s and she's yet to find Mr. Right. How does she stay patient and focused? So I never had to wait too long to meet Izan, so I can't give direct experience. I know it must be hard to be waiting for so long, and you're praying and you're asking God, and it's something that I struggle with in my mind too, because I often don't know what to say to especially women who have tried to live the best life they can, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and I really feel it. And it's one of the questions that baffle me all the time. I genuinely don't really have a proper answer for this. But if I had to say something, I would encourage you to be purposeful about your season of singleness and understand that God will always look out for your best interest. So it might be that He's trying to teach you something still. I don't know. But as I say, I don't have a real answer for this, but I can give you ideas, because I have one friend, for instance, love her to pieces, and she's still in her single journey. She's in her 30s as well. And what she has been doing is just dedicating her life to ministry, dedicating her life to doing all that life has to offer. So, lots of people say, oh, when they get married, they'll travel. But my girl been traveling. Or people say, oh, when they get married, they'll do something in church. But she's been doing some things in church. And when you get married, I'm going to put on this event. No, she will put on the event as a single person. You get me? So that's what I've seen her do. And I know from time to time it still gets lonely. But I think for the most part has allowed her to live a very fulfilled life. So I would just recommend embracing life as it comes. Do the things that you want to do. Somebody asked, how can I find true contentment in this season? True contentment comes from God. First of all, if we don't know him and if we don't have a relationship with him, then that true contentment won't come. If we don't trust him and trust his character, then that true contentment won't come. It's easier said than done. I will be content with every circumstance. But ultimately, it starts at the foundation where you have to know God. And when I say know him, I mean know him and trust him. Trust him and also to let go of self. And that's why we don't have faith, because we can't let go of self and we can't fully surrender and give over our lives to God. I've had times in my life where I'm fully content. Fully content. God, you could have thrown me left, right, center. And the reason I have to be praying for it now is because sometimes when you can't see what the future holds, you get a little nervous. And I also want to add that the whole contentment and trust in God thing, you might think that it is just in this single season you're uncomfortable, but if it is something that you can't master in singleness, you won't master it in marriage. Marriage doesn't fix poor faith. This person asked, how do I see myself in God's eyes instead of the eyes of people? Just fully understanding what God says about you. What does he say about you? He says you are beautiful. He says that you are smart. He says that you are protected. He says that you're provided for. He says that you are a gem. You get me? Understand how God describes you. It's a confidence booster that is top tier. So yeah, go through the Bible. And if you want, you can Google biblical affirmations and you can see all the things God thinks you are and who God wants you to be. So everybody by now must know that I have a special relationship with the fruit of the Spirit. So every time I think I'm acting out of who God calls me to be, he calls me to be kind and gentle and meek and long-suffering, and he calls me to be one with self-control. So every time Mrs. Zara, I behave like not that, me say, but Zara, hold on, that's not who God called you to be. So it kind of draws me up, you understand? It catch me and it sets me into place because he has called me to be that. So it reminds me that this is who God wants me to be. So if I'm not being that person, it must be somebody else, you know? I could go on and on about this because the OGs know that I'm a walk in your purpose girl. I am a girl. I'm the girl's girl. Like, I'm a girl's. I do all I do for the girls. Period. This person asks, what's some tips for a single one to date but don't know where to start? Sacred Search. That's a book I highly recommend you read before you start dating. But most importantly, before you start dating, know who you are. Know what your triggers are. Know what annoys you. Know what upsets you. Know what are some non-negotiables and some negotiables, right? In your singleness and in your season of singleness, that's the time to fully immerse yourself into you. To fully immerse yourself into what you like, what you don't like, your desires, the things that throw you off. If you don't serve you and if you don't work on some of your traumas, some of the things that are bothering you emotionally, if you don't work through those, then one, they will follow you. So your trauma will follow you and it will tamper with your decision. Sometimes we wonder why we end up with narcissists, and we wonder why we end up with misogynists, and we wonder why we end up with abusers. It's because of our past and how our brains work sometimes, and kind of how our brain adapts to life and how life's supposed to look. We haven't been healed from that, so then we replicate that because we think that's the standard and that's necessary. So sometimes we need to go through that. That's where I think you should start. Try to understand you, and also try to understand you in the context of being a child of God chosen. You know, understand you in the context of being of value and being different. Understand you in the context of somebody who's worthy of love. Enough time in a dating and in all of that, we can't accept a good man. We can't accept good things. When we say good things, we self-sabotage because we don't think we're worthy, because we never spend the time to fully understand who we were in Christ and how Christ sees us. And then self-development, learning social skills and etiquette and so, because you don't want to go on a date and you don't know of all the fuck, and you don't know and you don't know how to like comb your hair for certain places, and you get me? So etiquette is good. Learning how to dress for certain events is good if you like don't know from scratch. But DM me, boo. DM me. I got you, sis. I got you. We can talk. Let me show you guys the bedroom spread. Let me show you guys. You know, I'm a dress girl, so this is a nice little summery looking, it's always summer here, dress that I'll wear.
Hi guys, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be videoing on mine, but boy, make me tired. Last night mashed me up.
Let me show you guys the view. You can't eat that. Well, a chill out hut. If you're ever in the Trelawney area, well, Trelawney Mumbai area, and you're looking for somewhere nice and chill, chill out hut is one of our go-to places. We're always here. we're always here. Good morning.
I am so tired.
I know.
And I have to work a duty again tonight. I don't think I recorded anything at all yesterday. But after the whole night story, then I had to work yesterday from 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock. Didn't leave until after 5. And the best part of the day is when I got to pick up my baby girl.
How was it of singleness?
I was at work. Like, it started out with this constant reminder that I was single. Because I wanted to text her and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
But then honestly, it got to a place where it was just so much work and just work and work and work, and then I was just so tired that I just went to sleep. And then I just woke up and it was just work again. So I can see why single people, two things. One, embrace their work so much, like pour themselves into it. And two, why a period of singleness is probably when you should spend the most time working on yourself and on your career and your relationship with God, you know, things outside of pursuing necessarily an intimate relationship, because you have a lot of time to do that.
Question, right? Why do Christians behave as if something is wrong if someone doesn't desire marriage?
So first of all, people are people and people behave how they want to behave for things where, honestly, we don't have to agree with them, and sometimes we won't understand why them do it. So I can't really answer why they behave that way, but what I can say is that they shouldn't. They shouldn't behave as if something is wrong. If somebody doesn't desire marriage, Jesus lived until he was in his early 30s and he never got married.
What's the best way to manage friendships with non-single friends while respecting their relationship?
You see, those people also have a role to play. They have to make their boundaries clear, and then you have to learn to respect their boundaries. So for example, if they're married, don't call them after 8, 9 o'clock at night, you know, unless it's an urgent situation. Or send them a message before, if you're going to call them at that time. Text them so they know what is going on, and then you call.
Boundary,
you know, okay, that's very true.
Yeah,
that is my boundary, which is the point that I'm making, that these married people have to be clear on what their boundaries are, and then you need to learn to respect those boundaries. Also, honestly, there are a whole lot of little things, but everybody going to have them own little idiosyncrasies, and so I'm sure there are a whole lot of other boundaries that other people may have. Probably you guys can share in the comments down below what some of your boundaries are, or what you think are some reasonable things for people to do or to not do when they have to interact with married friends.
How does one cope when everyone around you is getting married? That's an emotional one.
You have to realize that being single is not a curse. You're not like any less loved by God because you're single. And you have to see it as an opportunity in your life for you to focus on building you, with the view of, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Right coming in your life later on, making sure that you are ready for when that person comes. Because a lot of times, the reason we are running down getting married or running down meeting somebody so much is because we are not focusing enough on developing ourselves. So sometimes the people walk into our lives and walk right back out because them don't like what them see.
But babe, and I mean, that's nice and everything, but what about people who wait for years and years and years and them feel like them at work and them just tired now? And
I get you. This is what I would say though. I can imagine that it is different for a guy than it is for a girl. Males and females are kind of socialized a little bit differently. If a man is in his 40s and wants a relationship and is not currently having it, he's going to, you know, proceed a little differently from a woman would. Because him go pursue multiple different ladies until one of them work. That's just the nature of guys. That's what we're going to do. But having said that though, I believe in giving advice on things that you actually know you talk about, and if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. Like, I mean, just genuinely don't know. I mean, obviously never learned it at school either. But what I will say is that my kind of catch-all solution to most problems, and what I'd recommend to you, is to find somebody who has successfully navigated that period and ask them what they did or their thoughts on what you can do.